guess I was relieved to know that I had a cancer that was, readily treatable. So, I think I just kind of hung on to that and said, okay, we're good. I'm not going to be that 5% that.
Years after the cameras stopped rolling, the family's story has continued in unexpected directions, pulled into viral internet moments, real-world tragedy, high-stakes medical ethics debates, and quiet career reinvention. From teenage social media controversies to hurricane-ravaged Florida visits, from a neonatologist stepping into national-level medical discussions to a once televised family choosing near-total privacy, the little couple's transformation is causing quite a stir. So, what really happened to Bill, Jen, Will, and Zoey? We'll get to that shortly. First, we must travel a bit back in time. The origins of the little couple. When the little couple premiered on TLC in March 2009, it arrived during the height of the reality television boom. Audiences were already familiar with programs built around unusual lifestyles and family dynamics, but Bill Klein and Dr. Jennifer Arnold brought something different to the screen. They were not aspiring celebrities looking for fame. Bill was an entrepreneur, while Jen was a practicing neonatologist, specializing in the care of premature and critically ill newborns. Their story was rooted not in manufactured drama, but in the realities of marriage, medicine, and living with skeletal dysplasia. Both Bill and Jen have forms of spondyloepiphyseal dysplasia, a rare genetic condition that affects bone growth and results in short stature. The condition shaped many aspects of their lives long before television cameras ever arrived. Jen underwent 22 surgeries before reaching adulthood and would eventually undergo more than 30 procedures. Bill also spent much of his life in hospitals and operating rooms, accumulating more than 20 surgeries. Their experiences gave them first-hand knowledge of chronic medical challenges, physical limitations, and the social obstacles that often accompany visible disabilities. Ironically, the story that would eventually captivate television audiences began decades before the show itself. Long before they became one of TLC's most recognizable couples, Bill Klein and Dr. Jennifer Arnold had already crossed paths in a hospital. Around the age of 10, both children were recovering from surgeries related to their skeletal dysplasia. Bill would later recall seeing a young girl at the end of a hospital corridor and briefly entering her room. Jen, heavily medicated and recovering from her own procedure, remembered none of it. The two would spend the next 20 years living separate lives. Both faced the challenges that came with dwarfism, pursued their educations, and built careers. Before becoming a television personality, Jen was building an impressive medical career. After facing discrimination during the college admissions process because of her height, she continued pursuing her ambitions and ultimately entered medicine. She became a neonatologist, a highly specialized physician responsible for caring for vulnerable newborns. Her professional achievements stood in stark contrast to the assumptions many people had made about what someone with dwarfism could accomplish. Meanwhile, Bill built a successful business career and developed a reputation for his humor, optimism, and determination despite years of bullying and personal struggles during his youth. Fate intervened again in adulthood through an online dating platform. Even then, the connection was not immediate. Friends had attempted to set them up before without success. Bill later joked that Jen essentially sent him a cold call email, while Jen admitted she was simply trying to be brave. What began as a digital conversation quickly evolved into something much more serious. Their relationship developed rapidly despite the logistical challenges. Because the community of little people is relatively small and geographically dispersed, long-distance dating was common. Bill famously boarded a plane to meet Jen in person, a gesture that reflected just how committed he already was to making the relationship work. By April 2008, the couple had married, more than a year before the little couple debuted on TLC. Their wedding took place before television fame arrived, meaning the foundation of their relationship was built away from reality television cameras and public attention. The central appeal of The Little Couple emerged from this balance between the extraordinary and the familiar. On one hand, viewers witnessed challenges unique to skeletal dysplasia. Everyday activities often required adaptations. Homes had to be modified. Medical appointments were a recurring reality. Surgeries were never far from the horizon. On the other hand, the series focused on experiences recognizable to almost any family, balancing work and home life, navigating marriage, planning for the future, and supporting one another through difficult times. As the show gained popularity, audiences became invested in the couple's pursuit of parenthood. Fertility struggles and pregnancy losses became part of their story, revealing a deeply personal battle that unfolded long before they eventually adopted their children. Rather than presenting an idealized version of life, the series documented setbacks alongside triumphs. This willingness to discuss painful realities helped distinguish the program from many reality shows of the era. The timing of the show's debut also played a significant role in its success. In 2009, public conversations about disability representation were far less prominent than they would become in later years. By inviting cameras into their lives, Bill and Jen exposed millions of viewers to experiences they may never have encountered otherwise. The show provided visibility to dwarfism, while also challenging stereotypes. Instead of focusing solely on physical differences, it highlighted careers, relationships, ambitions, and everyday routines. Over the next decade, The Little Couple would grow into one of TLC's most recognizable franchises. Across 12 seasons and numerous specials, viewers followed major life milestones, medical scares, career developments, family expansion, and cross-country moves. Yet, the foundation remained unchanged from the beginning. Life on Reality TV controlled access, staged elements, and boundaries. From its debut in 2009 through its eventual conclusion after 12 seasons, the TLC series presented Bill Klein and Dr. Jen Arnold's lives as authentically as possible. But the reality behind reality television was far more complicated. Cameras captured major milestones, family developments, and medical challenges. Yet many of the moments audiences believed were unfolding naturally had actually been recreated after the fact. The goal was not deception as much as practicality. Real life rarely unfolds on a production schedule. Some of the family's most memorable celebrations were filmed long after they had actually happened. Birthdays, anniversaries, family dinners, and special occasions were often experienced privately first, then repeated for production crews later. Jen openly acknowledged that many events shown on television were recreations rather than the original celebration. For the family, the genuine emotional moment happened before the cameras arrived. The filmed version allowed producers to tell the story while preserving the family's ability to experience important milestones on their own terms. The challenge became even more complicated because both stars maintained demanding careers outside the show. While Bill operated businesses, Jen worked as a neonatologist caring for critically ill newborns. Her workplace was not a television set. It was a functioning medical environment where patient privacy and hospital regulations took precedence over entertainment. When production first attempted to follow her professional life, Texas Children's Hospital was cautious about granting access. Hospital administrators wanted assurances that filming would accurately represent the institution and protect patients. Negotiations and meetings stretched on before the hospital became comfortable, allowing cameras into portions of Jen's professional world. Throughout the series, Bill and Jen consistently established boundaries regarding what would and would not be shown. Some of the most significant moments in their lives never appeared on television at all. You see, as their marriage progressed, Bill and Jen wanted children. However, their path to parenthood would prove far more difficult than either expected. Jen experienced multiple pregnancy losses. For years, the couple continued searching for a way to build the family they envisioned. Determined not to give up, they explored surrogacy. But once again, heartbreak intervened. Their surrogate also lost the pregnancy before term. According to accounts the couple later shared, Bill was forced to deliver the devastating news to Jen while she was at work. It was another crushing setback. Having exhausted multiple avenues, in March 2013, Bill and Jen adopted their son, Will Klein, from China. Just 7 months later, in October 2013, the couple adopted Zoey Klein from India. The timing surprised many observers because the family had only recently welcomed Will. Bill and Jen later explained that Zoey's adoption was not part of a carefully orchestrated plan. They had been on adoption lists for years, and when the opportunity arose, they felt compelled to move forward. Adoption experts advised them that establishing strong emotional bonds with their children should take priority over filming. As a result, the family temporarily shut down production following each adoption, keeping cameras away for approximately 6 weeks, while the children adjusted to their new home and parents. That decision became especially important during Zoey's transition. While viewers eventually saw a happy and thriving family, the earliest months were far more complicated. Zoey struggled with the dramatic changes that came with leaving an orphanage in India and adapting to a completely new environment. Bill and Jen later revealed that many of those difficult moments were intentionally kept off camera. The public saw the outcome, but not every challenge along the way. At the same time, Jen was dealing with a life-altering cancer diagnosis. Even during Jen's cancer battle, cameras were allowed only because she chose to permit them. Bill later made it clear that the decision belonged entirely to her. If she had wanted production removed, filming would have stopped immediately. As the children grew older, maintaining boundaries became even more important. Reality television has often been criticized for placing children at the center of storylines, but Bill and Jen deliberately resisted that approach. Although Will and Zoey became fan favorites, they were never the primary focus of the show. The couple repeatedly emphasized that most of their family life occurred away from cameras. School experiences, friendships, daily routines, and countless ordinary moments remained private despite public curiosity. Ironically, the children themselves often cared the least about the production process. According to Bill and Jen, Will and Zoey largely ignored the camera crews. Rather than being fascinated by filming, they treated camera operators as temporary obstacles. If a crew member stood in the way, the children had no hesitation about telling them to move. Growing up around production equipment had made the cameras ordinary rather than exciting. The soft controversies during the show's run. As the show's popularity grew throughout the 2010s, a series of smaller debates emerged around the family, the show's portrayal of disability, and the challenges of raising children in front of a national audience. One of the earliest debates centered on the couple's adoption decisions in 2013. In a span of months, the couple had adopted 2 children. To many viewers, the outcome was heartwarming. Others questioned whether bringing 2 young children into the family in such a short time frame was too ambitious. Critics argued that both children would need significant attention while adjusting to new parents, a new culture, and a new country. Bill and Jen defended the decision by explaining that the adoptions had developed independently. Will's adoption process had already been underway for nearly a year when an unexpected opportunity arose regarding Zoey. The couple later explained that they had actually been on adoption lists for years before receiving the call about Zoey. What appeared from the outside to be a carefully planned double adoption was, according to them, largely the result of timing and circumstance. Another debate emerged from the very premise of the show itself. The little couple was created partly to increase awareness of dwarfism and provide visibility to people living with skeletal dysplasia. For many viewers, the program succeeded. It introduced audiences to the realities of accessibility challenges, medical complications, and social misconceptions. However, Not everyone agreed with the way reality television handled those subjects. Some disability advocates questioned whether shows centered on physical differences unintentionally encouraged audiences to view participants through a lens of hardship rather than capability. One frequently cited concern was that viewers might leave the show feeling sympathy for Bill and Jen rather than recognizing them as successful professionals. Ironically, another criticism pointed in the opposite direction. While some viewers felt the show highlighted adversity too much, others believed it portrayed family life as unrealistically perfect. Across its 12 seasons, audiences watched Bill and Jen navigate challenges with remarkable teamwork and resilience. They overcame medical crises, adoption hurdles, career changes, and family transitions while maintaining a strong marriage. For some viewers, that consistency felt inspiring. For others, it seemed too polished. Part of that perception existed because many of the family's hardest moments never appeared on television. Bill and Jen later revealed that significant struggles, including portions of Zoey's difficult adjustment period after adoption, were deliberately kept off-camera. As a result, viewers sometimes saw the resolution without witnessing the full extent of the challenge. This led some critics to question whether the series presented an overly idealized version of family life. In reality, the family simply chose to protect certain private experiences from public consumption. Fan attention also extended beyond television screens. During their years in Houston, Texas, Bill revealed that viewers occasionally showed up uninvited at the family's home. Some left notes in the mailbox, while others visited the property hoping to catch a glimpse of the television family. Although most encounters were harmless and well-intentioned, they raised concerns about privacy and personal security. Parenting decisions also occasionally became subjects of public scrutiny. Like many reality television parents, Bill and Jen found that viewers often felt entitled to weigh in on how they raised their children. Discussion surfaced about adoption, education, discipline, social media, and public appearances, but then the visibility went away. Legal collapse behind the scenes and end of the show. By the time The Little Couple reached its final stretch on TLC, the story unfolding behind the camera had already shifted from family milestones to a legal conflict. What audiences saw as a long-running, stable reality series was, in production terms, increasingly entangled in a dispute between its production company and the network that aired it. The central conflict emerged between LMNO Cable Group, the independent production company behind the series, and Discovery Communications, the parent company of TLC. The dispute escalated into a broader legal battle involving allegations of accounting irregularities and control over intellectual property. At the center of the conflict was how profits and production rights were managed across multiple unscripted programs, including The Little Couple. LMNO accused Discovery of interfering in contractual arrangements and restructuring relationships in a way that affected ownership and financial flows tied to the show. Discovery, in turn, became embroiled in defending its position amid claims that financial reporting and accounting practices within the production ecosystem had been misrepresented. As the corporate dispute expanded, Bill Klein and Dr. Jennifer Arnold found themselves indirectly drawn into the litigation landscape surrounding their own series. In 2017, they moved to intervene in the ongoing dispute, arguing that they were entitled to pursue compensation connected to the show's financial structure. Their involvement marked a turning point. The stars of a family-centered reality series were now active participants in a complex intellectual property and contract dispute involving major media entities. They also filed claims of their own, including allegations of breach of contract, fraud, and attempts to challenge the ownership structure tied to their likeness and participation in the series. At the heart of their legal effort was an attempt to regain control over intellectual property rights associated with The Little Couple. The argument centered on whether they had been fully and fairly compensated for the use of their names, images, and life story across a decade of programming. The legal battle reached a critical juncture in May 2020, when a federal court issued a significant ruling that reshaped the direction of the case. The court rejected key portions of Bill and Jen's claims, including allegations of fraud and conversion. The judge concluded that the evidence presented did not meet the threshold required to move those claims forward. In addition, the court denied their attempt to rescind intellectual property rights, a decision that effectively blocked efforts to regain ownership or control over the series' core rights structure. The ruling narrowed the case significantly. While the more expansive fraud-based claims were dismissed, a narrower breach of contract claim was allowed to proceed. This meant that the dispute was no longer about alleged deception or IP reclamation, but instead focused on whether contractual obligations had been properly fulfilled under existing agreements. The scope of the legal fight had been reduced, but it had not disappeared entirely. Despite the partial continuation of litigation, the production trajectory of The Little Couple had already changed irreversibly. Filming had halted during the legal uncertainty surrounding LMNO and Discovery's dispute, and new episodes did not resume after the 2019 season. So, what happened next? Well, a lot. The Little Couple's transformation after the show is causing quite a stir. In 2017, the family relocated to Florida after Jen accepted a position at Johns Hopkins All-Children's Hospital in St. Petersburg. Around this period, production activity on the show was already slowing. By 2021, 2 years after the production had stopped, the family had moved again, this time to Natick, Massachusetts, in the Boston area. The relocation followed Jen's appointment at Boston Children's Hospital and her expanded role as a faculty member at Harvard Medical School. Her career evolved beyond clinical practice into leadership and academic teaching. Bill Klein continued developing and managing Rocky and Maggie's, a pet boutique and grooming business founded in Houston in 2012, along with its product-focused arm, Rocky and Maggie's Pet Products. Even after television exposure ended, public visibility did not disappear. Social media became the family's primary connection with the public. That controlled distance was briefly disrupted in 2023, when a TikTok video featuring Will, then 13, circulated online. The clip used a dance trend set to a 3/6 Mafia track containing explicit lyrics, sparking debate about parental oversight. This caused quite a stir, but the whole thing faded away as quickly as it had gone viral. In 2024, attention returned in a very different tone when Jen shared an update from Florida, following severe hurricanes affecting the region. She described assessing damage and checking on family, but also disclosed the death of a close friend and colleague. By 2026, Jen's visibility had shifted further into professional and ethical discourse within medicine. As a neonatologist at Boston Children's Hospital and faculty member at Harvard Medical School, she became increasingly involved in public discussions surrounding prenatal counseling and disability-related medical ethics. This marks a clear transition from a tightly produced television narrative to a dispersed public identity shaped by real-world roles. Jen's presence is now primarily medical and academic. Bill's is entrepreneurial, and their family visibility surfaces only intermittently through digital platforms. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Did you like this video? If you did, please consider liking, dropping a comment, and hitting the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on our new uploads. Also, don't miss this video you see on your screen right now. It's truly unbelievable.